Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite 508. This is your guide to the geek side, and this is the episode where we celebrate the best and worst of all geek media for our Friendies. This, I believe, is our 10th iteration of the Friendies.
Yes.
Because I don't know if we did 1 year one. We might have, but it was, time or weird. Maybe it's the 11th.
Right.
Don't know. No one can tell.
It's too hard to go back and look because those files exist somewhere. I don't even think they're on our shared drive where we pull episodes from.
I have them all. I keep them all sequestered, and then I put all the video.
Yep. Keeps them in the sacred vault.
But I am Todd Oxtra, joined by Charlie Carden, and we are here to. We're not wearing our best and brightest, but next year, Charlie, let's get those tuxedo T-shirts.
Oh, you know what? Make a note of it because we'll do it.
Yep,
we'll do it. Just like our
look fancy.
Yeah, just like our bet about how long the Volume 3 of West Coast Avengers will last until it gets canceled. You got to make a note of it. We do. We need like a vision board or a parking. They always call it in corporate America. They call it a parking lot issue when they have those big, like when you're having a meeting and they pull off those giant size Post-it notes. A parking lot issue. They always did that when I worked at.
That's right. Let's put that in parking lot, which means that you'll forget to bring it up the next time, and you'll then put it on the parking lot again, right? Because no one remembered.
So maybe in another 10 years we'll get it. So we have an awesome show today, super amped up to talk about the Friendies, and Todd and I were remarking we were trying to help each other just remember what came out this time last year. It's nearly impossible. So both he and I went through week by week each one of our flows. We keep all of our show flows in a single spot on a Google Drive, and this morning I went through and looked at 52 weeks of our show.
It's amazing.
Minus 1 or 2 weeks that maybe I wasn't on board, but holy cow. But we've got that for you, as well as a lot of fun news and stuff. But without further ado, as always, we'd like to start the show with what we call paying the bills. And what that really is a great pleasure to give some love and respect to the wonderful people on our Patreon Secret Friends Super Squad. Now, if you visit patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite, you can try us out for 7 days, getting ad-free content, early content, and tons of bonus secret exclusive content for 7 days for free, and then stay on board for as little as $2 a month, a fraction of one visit to Starbucks for all of this great entertainment. You want to do it. You can also gift that at patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite/gift. For the geek in your life. Maybe their birthday's coming up. Maybe you miss Christmas. Do it. Make it rain. Cool. Well, these fine folks know the deal because they have been a part of our squad, some of them for an awfully long time. My buddy Derek Trevelyan, the figure dude. Francie, my wife's hairdresser. Luke Lore, Mr. Xbox Expansion Pass, great friend. And my awesome uncle Tim Horan. John Sidorf kicks off the Friends with Benefits level, along with the Phoenix Sisters Entertainment. Kelly and Crayley, a little bit more about program Kelly's got coming up here, shortly. Brendan Myers, Corey in HD, great fella. Matthew Keel, my buddy Kurt Krug, and I want to back it off and keep it serious for a minute. Kurt has been a buddy of ours for several years. He's very instrumental in helping us with a lot of stuff we do with our Spotlight program. He recently lost his older brother to a kind of a freak medical accident. Our hearts go out to Kurt. Who is just a wonderful guy that we were all at Michigan State at the same time, but never met each other back in those days, but met just a couple of years ago, and we've all become very good friends. So Kurt, our hearts are with you. And yes, please, I don't do thoughts and prayers, but kind energy and lovingness to Kurt at this tough time that I'm sure he's going through.
It's very tough to lose a loved one, especially someone that you've had in your life the whole time. So, Kurt, yes, we feel your pain and send you much love.
Indeed. And finally, our new friend, Tanya Lee, who is a collaborator of ours, worked on Code 47 and got her superpowers last week. So glad to have you all on board. And then finally, the folks who are our number one supporters, the awesome Nias family of the Twin Cities. Sean Stellan, Henry, I understand Sean is kind of back on his feet after having some issues with his spine in the last couple of months.
He is feeling better. Yep, he had 2 bulging discs and or herniated discs in his neck, and he's getting physical therapy. And he got an injection. The injection where he told me how they did it in his neck was scary as crap. So
Oh
there
my
you go.
God.
Going
Yeah.
through the front of your neck to do that into your spine. Yeah, he's
I
like,
mean,
yeah, they could have ruptured an artery. That would have been bad.
You know, when I had mine done, because I had a herniated disc years ago, it was at the bottom of my spine, and it was relatively straightforward because they go
Yeah.
right above it. They didn't
Yep.
go from behind it, so that's freaky.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're glad to hear it, Sean. But anyway, Todd, I mentioned Kelly, and we've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks. Kelly has something exciting coming up. Tell us about it, please.
Yes, please check out this amazing fundraiser that Kelly is doing. It's called the Multiverse Fundraiser. It's a virtual con-a-thon and charity fundraiser all rolled into one little neat package. This year, they've teamed up with Comic Books for Kids, a charity providing child-friendly comic books to children in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. to raise funds for their cause. On January 24th to the 26th, they will both pre-recorded live Comic-Con style content to include celebrity, comic, and writing guests that include Creek Wilson, Lee Williams, Jerry Gaylord, John Cosper, and more. So visit www.themultiversefunraiser.com for more information and instructions on how to both tune in and contribute. Don't worry, folks. This will all be in our show notes in the podcast. When you see it, check it out. You can click the link and contribute and just, actually get some entertainment for your contribution. So check that out.
Well, speaking of entertainment, holy cow! These old comic book covers from the past never fail to deliver. Back in December of 1990, my gosh, I was 13, going on 14. When I would have gone down to Argos Comics, my comic shop, I was there earlier today, and I could have picked up for the great price of $1 the New Warriors issue number 8. Now, the New Warriors was a squad of essentially younger characters, a la the kind of the Teen Titans. Some characters were new, some were somewhat vintage. We had a new version of the Nova character. I think it wasn't still Richard Rider, wasn't it? Somebody new? I could be misremembering. But
Good question. It was Richard Rider. It was Richard Rider. Yes.
So really, he wasn't a new character. He'd been around since the 70s. And I was going to say Angelica Houston. Angelica Jones. Yeah, Jones was Firestar, who had been around. She was a character who was created in cartoon form for Spider-Man. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends later became a regular character. But Namorita, Speedball, and then your core very 90s-ish character was Night Thrasher. This was a figure I had once that I think I eventually got rid of because I thought, this is a dumb character. I don't need this in my collection. But he was a guy who wore basically like a bodysuit with like a motorcycle helmet, but he did have a skateboard and batons.
Kind of reminds me of Kick-Ass, kind of like the body armor and a club.
Well, I don't think the body armor is going to help him out in the instance of this picture you're probably seeing if you're watching us on YouTube. But you have Marvel's non-anti-hero wearing his full Rambo bandana, the Punisher, shooting Night Thrasher, center mass, point blank range with a very big gun, to which the box caption at the side says, Night Thrasher fights for his life against the Punisher. I think he lost, if I was to judge by this picture. But, not to leave the rest of the other team out, another box in the middle of the page says, the other Warriors fight for theirs against the lethal new super team, the Force of Nature, of which you don't actually see any of the characters. And I'm trying to figure out who's the guy at the lower right-hand corner. It looks like Black Bolt, but it's not.
No, Charlie, that's Marvel Boy. Also, Vance Astrovic, who was one of the Guardians of the Galaxy of 3099 or whatever it was. That year was the year 3000.
Year 3000.
Yeah.
Who dash or what are they? Well, we don't know because it's just vines and electricity, kind of like the pit of despair from the one.
Well, I can tell you who they are. The Force of Nature. We've got Skybreaker, Aqueduct, horrible name, Terraformer, and Firewall. Fabian Nicieza wrote this. Mark Bagley drew it. And you can definitely tell by his art. Yeah, pretty much. His art style hasn't changed. But I really did. It was a book that I just never really understood why it happened. It wasn't like the Avengers said we need a team of kids. So I never really understood what brought them together, except it was like, we're bored. Let's do something.
We need a new title. And, the trend obviously was not new. As I said, the Teen Titans is the big one that people point to, like, a team of young kids or whatever it is. We've had the champions in more, in the last 15 years.
Now we have the new champions.
Yeah, we had, Kamala Khan and Miles and a lot of these. Yeah. So I don't know. Again, obviously they're trying to suck in more of the younger readers because at this point, us who are the old guys who read comics, we were all teenagers, but now it's over 35 years gone by, my God. And what are they doing to suck people? And because Todd, I had showed you, I had picked up previews, the January titles for March release, and they're doing all these Disney Marvel what ifs, like, oh, what if all Mickey and friends were the Avengers? And I'm like, what is this crap? And you're like, well, it's for the kids. And I'm like, kids don't read comics. It's just people like us, and people like us look at this and think it's dumb, potentially. But hey, you know what? If I'm wrong,
It's
at me on
corporate
social media.
synergy, Charlie. It's corporate synergy.
I love it. Well, if there's anybody who knows about corporate synergy, it's the lady who invented the term, coined it back in 1992. I am talking about our senior news correspondent, Madam Webb. She's down there at the corner of Hollywood and Vine, assuming that it's still there. Obviously, all of our thoughts and prayers and love and affection go out to the poor people in Los Angeles right now with everything that's going on with the 8 different wildfires and people who've lost their homes to take it on a serious tip. We wish the best for you. I know I've been following it, Todd. I'm sure you have too, but there are some very notable folks.
Yep. One of my marketers is right there near Palisades, so he had to move, and basically making sure he's going to be okay. We still have a plant out in LA too.
Oh my gosh, that's wild. But anyway, to tune it back in, Madam Webb is at a safe distance from any kind of danger with the latest news and scoops for us in what we like to call Madam's Webb's News. So let's do it.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's Rumors and News. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. I see you're dressed nicely tonight. You've got your finest potato sack with a sash. You're on a piece of red carpet you found, and you are interviewing the hobos about the best and brightest of 2024 for
Amazing.
the film. So thank you, Madam Webb. We hope you get some good interviews.
We appreciate it.
Hopefully there's no scandals.
Hopefully. All right. What do we got to kick it off here? Boy, the description of this first sentence sounds like a Mad Lib, but go for it.
Well, here we go. There actually was a trailer for this, Charlie, but
oops. Oh, didn't watch it. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I didn't put there was a trailer, but
okay,
it is what it is. But we are essentially getting a new movie that is adapting a George R.R. Martin book. It was a book he wrote. Oh, very early. Sure. Yes, he did. Yeah, he wrote a lot of things before Game of Thrones, which is kind of crazy. So this was a story in a fantasy anthology, 1982. And this story is called In the Lost Lands. So this is now being turned into a movie, and there's a trailer dropped, and this is going to have Mila Jovovich and Dave Bautista in it, and it's directed by Paul W.S. Anderson of Resident Evil fame.
And that's her husband, if I'm not mistaken, or ex-husband.
It is. Yeah. They're synonymous for always doing things together.
Yeah.
Well, all I will say is when I watched the trailer, I honestly thought Zack Snyder directed this thing. It feels just like early or mid 2000s, like a lot of grays and tans, color, a lot of slow motion, a lot of Uber, like I am, so this is
happening for me.
Yeah, I was just surprised that it's coming March 7th, and the premise is, I'll give you the premise. Directed by Paul W.S. Anderson and based on George R. Martin's short story, a queen sends the powerful and feared sorceress Grey Alice, played by Mila Jovovich, to the ghostly wilderness of the Lost Lands in search of a magical power where the sorceress and her guide, the drifter Boyce, played by Dave Bautista, must outwit and outfight man and demon. So, I'm really surprised Dave Bautista signed up for this, because a movie that is so close to direct-to-video that I'm actually it isn't.
My initial leaning, without getting to the bottom where it does say go see the film when it opens on March 7th, seeming to indicate that it will be in theaters. I see this as the way you just described it, which I'm sure I would, and again, I didn't watch the trailer, didn't really look for it, but And again, it says it looks right like it could be ripped out of a video game, which is not my jam anyway. This has all of the elements of a shit stew for me. It just does not look like it's going to click for me. I'm sure it'll click for somebody, but seems like a big-ish budget mess. Or maybe if they're lucky and it's low production values, if it tanks, they won't get as burned. I don't know. Who is
Interesting.
what studio is cranking out this Meg?
So I believe this is by Constantine Films, which I don't know what they've done. I'm just looking for like an IMDb to say,
is that like a
who actually
Lionsgate-ish kind of thing? Lionsgate seems to crank out a lot of cheapy crappies.
I'm just looking to see if does anybody have like who actually made this film?
No, nobody's
I'm looking. Okay, scripted by Anderson and Werner. And who produced this? Oh yeah, produced by like 18 people. And
Recipe for Success.
I don't even see Vertical Films. Yeah, this sounds like a very low budget. Dave Bautista probably got half the budget for this thing.
So I think if you were to boil this down to next to nothing, it would be don't worry about it. You will never hear about it again. You won't even know.
Probably not.
In the 1 week it's in your cinemas, maybe one cinema in your town, if that, and then you didn't. But you know what? It's our job to report on the news, and we have executed upon that responsibility.
If you like a throwback and want one of those, like the last Witch Hunter with like Vin Diesel, 80s. Or you want, there's a lot of those movies that, that were like mid 2000s that came out. They all kind of had that, we're uber cool and everything's kind of edgy and
Edgelord 101.
Exactly.
Well, moving on. Holy cow. There are a few things, and again, we'll revisit this when we get to the Friendies talk about stuff we're loving, that was more powerful for me back in 2023 now. So yeah, I talked about it last year, sorry. Than The Last of Us. Oh my God. 6 episodes, super powerful. April and I watched it, loved it. Several months later, we came to it, watched the 6, and she said, we just got to watch them again. I want to watch them again right now. And we did. We did 2 back-to-back viewings of this because it just... If you like Pedro Pascal, if you like post-apocalyptic horror monsters, which is stuff that April and I definitely love because we're big Walking Dead fans, this was phenomenal. And Todd, as you've explained to me, and I've watched a good balance of, I'm into cutscenes movies, and I'm assuming there's, speaking of, the next one I probably need to check out is new Indiana Jones game that came out. I'm sure there's one out there.
Yeah, I'm sure all those cutscenes are out there now, and that is very excellent. It does feel like a new movie. The guy who does the voice acting, he actually does the voice of Joel in the Last of Us games, is doing Indiana Jones.
Dude.
Does an amazing Indiana Jones. I would love it if he actually came back for like an animated Indiana Jones film.
If only.
He'd be great.
Yeah, maybe after Harrison Ford leaves us. Not that I'm hoping for that to happen. But at any rate, the second season of it, much anticipated, will drop in April. I don't think they gave us a date, but that's always your Sunday 9 p.m. appointment viewing, the kind of the Game of Thrones block, as I recall. We get the original. We got a teaser back in September, so this is another kind of teaser. It's only about a minute and a half, which is it's not a full length by a cinematic trailer, but it's probably for a TV show. But yeah, anyway, my point in mentioning the game is that the game very closely, the series very closely followed that first game, because there's two games, or is there more than one?
There's 2 games.
Okay.
The second game is all we've gotten since, and that came out in 2020. And I believe what they're probably going to do, because I've talked about 3 seasons total so far, because they're going to run out of material. Is my guess is they're going to split the second game in half for the series. So the first part of the game will be part, season 2, and then the latter half will be 3, which I can see how they can do it. It makes a lot of sense to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
And this you are shown a female character at the beginning of this in the hospital. And so this season is really about the repercussions of what Joel did to save Ellie. And all I can say is it's going to come back to haunt him. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, big time. Well, you see in one scene, he's a tear streaming down his face. So you also see scenes of the settlement where Ellie and Joel have come to live with Joel's brother and his wife, and obviously they're the new family that they were having. And that I want to say the walkers, but what do they call them? The fungies, the clickers.
They call them the clickers,
The
yes.
clickers
Yep.
finally stumble upon him, and the clickers are way scarier than the walkers in The Walking Dead because they're fast, they're much more brutal,
And they mutate over time too.
and they're a
They
lot
get
harder
even
to
worse.
kill. Yeah, don't forget about what's the real big one that came out of the ground and
The bloaters, yeah.
tore Melanie Liskey. Well, it didn't tell Melanie Liskey in half. The little girl ripped her apart, but Melanie Liskey's right hand man, when were they in Denver? Was that or St.
I
Louis?
believe so.
It
St.
was,
Louis,
yeah,
St.
it
Louis,
was St.
yep.
Louis.
Yep.
Yeah, when they finally all of the clickers had gone underground, so when they broke a hole in the ground, they all came streaming. That was crazy visuals, but yeah, this looks absolutely phenomenal. I cannot wait. April's going to be a good month because we have something else big coming out in April. I'm drawing a blank. Some other big show. Oh, Andor. Season 2 of Andor.
Oh, it's coming out. It's coming in April. Wow.
Yeah.
I totally
So
forgot.
Yeah, so as we get into the second quarter of the year here, there's just going to be tons of entertainment. So I'm fired up. This is probably, I mean, it's neck and neck with my most anticipated project of the first part of this year. I mean, even as excited as I am about, Captain America, I'm also terrified for that movie because of all the reshoots and everything that they talk about. But this, I have no fear that there's going to be something exceptional out of this. So I'm fired up.
Yep.
So
Yep. I think they've done a great cast. The people that are going to be in this are amazing. I think they are going to probably add in some additional pieces into this that are not in the video game, or they were maybe glanced on it and then it was,
yeah.
there was something and then they build on it like we had season 1. So I am perfectly fine with that because building out the world is kind of what they probably should do if they want to continue on to make this show go on at least more than 3 seasons, because
Yeah.
I don't know when we're getting the next game, maybe in 2026. And at that point, unless they're sharing the script, because obviously the game maker is a big part of the creative team of the show. He could basically say, this is what we're doing. We don't have the video game yet, but here's what the script looks like, rather than George R. Martin just gives them like an outline and say, have fun.
Yeah, and Morgan Freeman, spoiler alert, we did not, in fact, have fun because the end of Game of Thrones was god awful. So
it was, it was a big departure of quality from the first half.
So getting into this next story here, I'm a little dubious about this. So this article from Geek Kyron says Marvel Studios reportedly recasting T'Challa for Avengers films and Black Panther 3. Are we talking prequel? Are we talking multiverse? Because we know they gave a beautiful send off to the T'Challa character in Black Panther 2, which April and I watched not that long ago because we're nearing the we did a full Marvel rewatch to get ready for the 2026. So we watched that and they did it. T'Challa died off screen of some mysterious whatever, and they had a big funeral for him, and it drove Shuri's narrative throughout that film. But now they're 5 years after Chadwick Boseman passed, was cancer, which nobody knew about. It came as a surprise to the world. They're looking to bring T'Challa back into the fold after
I don't think it's him. I think because of the way that movie ended, he has a son.
Right.
And so if he then gets the mantle of it, I don't know, how old was he in that at the end of that film?
He was 5 because
was he 5? Okay.
Yeah, 5 or 6 because that's how long the
Black Panther 2.
Black Panther's lady, whose name is escaping me, one of the other characters who was played by Maz Kanata.
Nakia.
Yeah, Nakia. Yeah, how she had been, because she had been absent she pulled like a Beverly Crusher and disappeared and had a kid.
Yep.
But so you and I end up posting a lot of this according to Movie Insider because that's how rumors start. He reports Marvel's looking to recast Black Panther hero T'Challa ahead of the 2 Avengers movies and Ryan Coogler's Black Panther. So this makes it sound like they're looking to bring the same character back with a different actor.
Would they do? I don't think.
That just seems very messy because the entire film of Wakanda Forever was about moving on from the untimely death of T'Challa, and so now they're just gonna kind of toss all that out just for the stunt of bringing him back. I mean, this goes on to say, would give the studio a chance to bring in a new actor while respecting Boseman's portrayal, but it could also use an older version an older version of his son. That's what you said. And of course, then there's the catch-all, which we've all really kind of come to loathe, which is, oh, there's another version of him for the multiverse, and you could.
Yeah.
It's very lazy to pull that
I mean,
out.
you could do that. I mean, you could
Yeah.
have him show up, but to point, I don't know. Maybe he got this wrong. Maybe it's not really T'Challa. Maybe it's recast. Maybe it's his son. Somehow his son gets aged up or something.
Yeah.
And that's how it gets worked. I have no
I
problem
don't-
with that happening.
I don't know,
I don't
man.
know.
Yeah, it's just not. It's just the whole thing just isn't grabbing me. You know what I'm saying? So I think they kind of put their flag down with the second film, and to back away from that effort, really just invalidates anything that they might have accomplished in that movie. I just don't see it.
I don't foresee Shuri being Black Panther for long because she has been Black Panther in the comics, and then obviously Shaw is still alive in the comics. He comes back to basically claim back as the Black Panther, but we'll see. Maybe T'Challa got it on with another person, and there's an eliminated child, kind of like his dad. Why not?
Yeah, sure, why not? That works. So anyway, we will find out. Obviously, it's a bit down the road because we're seeing it'll be in the next year that we see the first of the two-part Avengers Dynasty with Doomsday. Not sure how that will factor into this, but we could potentially find out. I don't know that they've slated the third Black Panther film in any kind of official parlances, unless I'm very much
Not
mistaken,
that I'm aware of. I mean, if they have, it's years away. I mean,
right. But again, this is a rumor from a movie scooper who's very well trusted in the industry. So yeah, we'll find out. But anyway, moving on. Todd, we broke this trailer several months ago, and we're now getting a full trailer for this film, which finally gives some perspective on some things that, in seeing it in the first trailer, you're like, what the hell is going on here? But Todd, you broke this on our Discord the other day. Take us through the trailer for Companion, of which I jumped in. It comes out at the end of January. I already grabbed our tickets, so we're seeing it on Jan 30. Yeah.
This Geek Tyrant says it's coming out January 10th. That's completely wrong. Because I saw it, I'm like,
31st.
nope. It's still Companion. We saw the initial trailer for this a while ago, teaser, and basically you see Jack Quaid with this girl, and then all of a sudden looks like a love story, and then she's sitting there at dinner, and he sets her hand on fire, and like, oh, something's wrong with this. So I thought, I bet this is some type of like AI companion or something, and that's exactly what it is.
Right.
She basically, we've got Sophie Thatcher,
and she's a sweetie pie. I don't remember what else we've seen her in.
Oh, she was in Heretic, and she was amazing in that movie.
Oh, okay. All right.
She is amazing. It's great. But apparently in this, she is essentially a sex robot, which everybody has in the future. But Jack Quaid, who owns this sex robot, has essentially decided to unlock some features that has essentially made AI go bad. And this movie looks crazy. Like his girlfriend knows all about this. Like they're doing some weird things. We get there's a great scene where you see her essentially unlock the app that increases her intelligence, which is scary.
40% to 100%. The hanger at the end, basically the stinger at the end of this trailer, is a couple of his buddies who are boyfriend and boyfriend, so the same sex couple. One of them's on the phone, and the other, and he's saying like, no, it's fine. She's locked up inside. She's not going to get loose. And then you see a sliding door open in the back of the house, and she come out and run away. And the other guy goes, but she just ran. I'm on the phone. Now you were saying. So,
yes,
but she's
that's Harvey Guillen from Guillermo from What They Do in the Shadows.
Yeah, he looked very, very familiar. But this is nuts. I mean, I remember from the first trailer, they were taking turns slamming each other's hands in the door, and you see a scene where Jack Quaid is
getting
about to shoot her in the head from
covered in blood. So
this looks absolutely nuts. So I look forward to, Todd, I don't know if you're going to see this right away, but I would love to talk about this in a Thunderdome later this month.
I mean, I probably will, just because I tend to see a movie a week when there's things to actually see. So that's what my movie pass thing is. It's basically I get a movie free a month, and then my tickets are fairly inexpensive ongoing. So it's kind of nice. So I will definitely see it. I'm looking for movies to see. Yeah.
Well, I think you can count on hearing about this one from us. So, all right. Well, Todd, this is your specialty when it comes to Star Wars. Getting away from canon and lore restraints. This has to do with James Mangold. So, what do we got going on here?
Yeah, James Mangold is discussing kind of like what he's going to be doing with his movie for Star Wars. Movies, don't know yet. But essentially, his project is going to be taking Star Wars back to the beginning, 25,000 years in the past.
No cameos.
Basically, essentially, he's not really, like he said, I'm not that interested in being handcuffed by so much lore at this point that it's almost immovable. You can't
Right.
please anybody. He's absolutely right.
Yeah.
So basically, see, by setting this film in the distant past, he can essentially create. Unfortunately, he can create things now that trap other creators in the future. Right? He's basically
that is how franchises work. Somebody is always going to trap somebody else, right? So it's unavoidable.
And he said the project is going to be a sweeping epic like Ben-Hur or the Ten Commandments, centered on the discovery of the Force and origins of the Jedi Order. He says the Force has become a kind of religious legend that spans through all these movies, but where did it come from? How is it found? Who found it? Who is the first Jedi? That's what I'm writing now. And it says the Jedi Order was established around, love this time, 25,793 BBY.
BBY, for the uninitiated, is before Battle of Yavin, so basically episode 4 of Star Wars. That is how all time.
There you go.
All time is told in Star Wars. It's either BBY or ABY.
Okay, there you go. So there you go. And basically, following Destiny Force Wars on Tython, the Prime Jedi, the first to wield the Force, is a key figure in this period.
Sidebar, actually, Tython is the planet where Grogu sits on the Seeing Stone and contacts Luke Skywalker at the end of Mando Season 2, just so you know.
So after we said all this, sounds great. Because I always said, like, going back is awesome.
Yep.
Because you essentially can't have any cameos unless it's from, like, the lore legends that maybe people have heard about in maybe the EU that they're incorporating. But beyond that, we're not getting Guy Bartendo or, showing up.
There is exactly one potential cameo, and I know because I'll talk about it in a moment how April and I just cycled through all of the Disney Plus Star Wars. Huyang, the Jedi trainer droid, is this old. He's 25,000 years old. Honest
God, technology doesn't change in Star Wars.
That's what's so crazy about Star Wars is they can have a 25-year-old thousand droid who is. It's funny because that character, by the way, is voiced by David Tennant, and he does have a great line in that where he says, "I'm still, 70% original parts," which is crazy because I swear, and I could be wrong, but I do very much believe he said he was 25,000 years old. So he absolutely could be a character.
We'll have to look that up, Charlie. We'll have to do some fact checking.
But
I mean, so the good news is this sounds like it could be really groundbreaking, really exciting. I worry that Star Wars fans may not like something that doesn't have what they're used to.
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, in case in point of order or point of odor, if you prefer, let's look at the massive failure of the Acolyte. It had a lot of elements that people didn't care for. It was too different, and people hated it. Sorry. The numbers really speak for themselves, and you can at me on social media if you want to, but the Acolyte didn't get canceled because everybody loved it. Sorry.
So you're saying that the Yoda cameo at the very end wasn't enough to satisfy?
Yeah, that satisfied someone in the last literal 3 seconds of the series, or it was or something.
And anybody who actually stuck around to watch the whole Acolyte, which I did, but I mean,
I did too, but I'm, that's what I do, but the majority of people did not. So, you're right. I think this is the exact concept Star Wars needs. I, like you, don't necessarily feel like that's going to be a shared narrative for everyone. And again, dialing it back so far, and it really, in its own way, becomes an original IP. It's something really very
absolutely
new.
Absolutely.
And people like you and I are excited about that, but the other people are like, where's Yoda? Where's Darth Vader? Where's all the marketing stuff I'm familiar with? Where's the Empire? Where's the Rebels? Where's, all you have is the Jedi, but they're all like, hey, this is my first day kind of Jedi, you know what I mean? And I found the Force in this, swimming pool somewhere, or whatever. However, it's the first guy. It's, Moses in the burning bush, it's the guy with the 10 commandments, it's going to be that. Yeah. So it's basically, Jedi Bible stories kind of scenario. I think it'll be great. But yeah, it's kind of scary to think that other people might not be like, this is bullshit. But if it's
Well,
a big epic movie with explosions and excitement, and it's 2 hours of roving action with a solid narrative, I think it more than stands a chance. But you're right, the biggest drawback could be people saying, well, this is not my Star Wars. What are you gonna do?
and hopefully, I as much as I sometimes think canon can be a trap, and it's like
It's a trap.
it basically can hurt good stories. But we've had so many people like that are just putting kind of conjecture on why did this happen? Why did this
Right.
happen? Oh, because I'm like, but if this is actually setting the baseline for what the Force is and how it's used, then maybe we can get away from certain things that people just assume or implied, and
Yeah.
just explain it away, right?
Right.
Maybe that's fine.
Absolutely. So soonest we would probably see this is 2027 or 2028.
Charlie,
If that's made.
unless we get a trailer, it's never happening.
Star Wars has become the punchline of shelved projects, but something that's not shelved because it's going to go into production really in April. This is what makes April such a big month. Would be the second season of Ahsoka. April and I just finished watching Ahsoka season 1 again last night. It's probably the third time I've watched the series. It came out in the summer of 2023. And actor Ray Stevenson, who portrayed Baylan Skoll, who was one of the villains in the series, Fallen Jedi, passed away right before the series came out. He died in
very sad.
2023. Awesome character, amazing
Absolutely.
performance, and set the character on the trajectory to have a really awesome adventure in the second season. So
an interesting character arc, which I really appreciated.
Right. Yeah, he did not take the traditional mustache twirling or beard stroking villain move. He broke off on his own, and instead of being part of the final battle, said something to me on this planet, because they ended up in a distant planet.
Smell you later.
A distant planet called Peridia in another galaxy, and he said something to this planet is calling me, and it ties back to the Star Wars lore. Something that happened in the Clone Wars about a distant galaxy, blah blah blah, the gods of Mortis, which you'll find out about. The role will be picked up by, what is that nice gentleman's name? I'm scrolling.
The Hound from Game of Thrones.
Yes, and they
big man, great actor.
Yeah, those two actors were friends in real life. And apparently the casting was blessed by Stevenson's widow.
Rory McCann.
Rory McCann. So there's certainly enough of a physical resemblance that I think that won't be a problem. But as we were talking about, they're big shoes, or I should say boots, because everybody in Star Wars wears big boots to fill. I mean, it's a very meaningful role, and again, a great character arc with a character, with a trajectory that is a real journey that's going to happen. So I can't wait for this. If it's being produced now, they're saying that it could be released before the end of the year, but more than likely probably a Q1 2026 release, which I think would be absolutely spectacular.
And this has to happen before the Dave Filoni movie, right?
Right, which is summer of 2026. No,
so it's got to come out.
No. I take that back. That's the Mando movie. If you're talking about a future Filoni project that brings together all of the
it's all of his TV stuff.
Yeah, that is not actually.
Is that TBD?
It's TBD. It doesn't.
Oh, good.
Yeah, the only real, and it's funny, the only real Star Wars movie that has been completed into post-production is The Mandalorian and Grogu, which will be out in summer of 2026. Everything else is, there's going to be a Rey movie. Oh, we're dangling Rogue Squadron back in front of you.
There's another.
There's James Mangold. Yeah. We were just talking about it. So
Simon Kinberg's got a trilogy,
exactly.
And is Rey in it? Nobody knows.
Or did they kill Rian Johnson's trilogy? I think they whacked that one. So
same as the Game of Thrones trilogy, same as the Kevin Feige project. Yeah, who knows?
I absolutely love it. So yeah, I loved Ahsoka, and then again, I'll touch upon that a little bit more in the Geek Easy. But yeah, that's the news. So we've got a lot more to talk about, but first we've got to get ourselves up to the very fine establishment known as the Geek Easy. I've ordered up our Uber X. It has arrived. We jump in the back of this beautiful black Cadillac Escalade, and beep, bop, boop, they turn on Sirius XM radio. We got the Yacht Rock station on, even though Todd said turn that off or I'm going to kill somebody. But it's kicked off by this same very familiar advertisement.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, cover bands playing, drinks are poured, and we are going to get our nerd on. This week, I'm still catching up on a lot of things, but I have really gotten into Skeleton Crew. I'm
know,
through
right?
with all of the episodes.
We started a rewatch just before I came down here because the final episode will be on Tuesday, the day this episode comes out. So, oh my God. And Todd, you're the harshest critic of Star Wars, and I respect that because I do record a Star Wars show with Mark. Love Mark as I do. He's got a very big heart when it comes to Star Wars.
He's a very half glass full.
Half glass full. Yes,
my glass is always empty, and I'm saying, who drank my glass?
Yeah,
who drank my water?
He's gonna force choke somebody. So, Todd, I would say your opinion on a Star Wars show is more valuable than almost anyone I know. So talk to me about how you feel about Skeleton Crew. Skeleton
Crew brings something that Star Wars has been lacking for so often, and that is fun.
Fun? What's fun? I haven't heard
not
of it.
Dire, not the world is on fire, everything's going to end. Oh my God, who's who related to this? Literally, this is what we talked about, is kind of like a story where you don't need any type of cameos. You don't need anything to tell a good story rather than just a good story. And that's what the show is. At its surface, it is Goonies in Star Wars. But in a lot of ways, this show, the kids are great. I really enjoy them quite a bit.
Wonderful kids. I love it.
Yes. And they are kids.
Kid actors are such it's a 90-10 split that the 90 being you're going to get some kids that you would want to punch if they were in front of you.
Yes.
Kid actors are awful. Sorry, kid actors. But from the prospect of a consumer, people generally hate kid characters. People hated poor Will Wheaton as Wesley Crusher. It's just, they're reviled. People just can't deal with it.
Unless you write them correctly or direct them correctly. Yes. Children can be bad, but you can do some great things with them. Yeah. And I think what's been great about this is they are not, like, these kids don't like develop into being badasses. No, they're still kids. They're scared.
Yeah.
They try to act tough, and then they fail a lot of times. And that's what part of it is too. They fail. They end up coming out and being very vulnerable. Like, there's a great episode where the one girl who was injured and got mechanical parts and everything, basically to save her life.
I want to call her R2, but that's not her name. K2.
Visor Lady. Yes, Visor Lady. But K2. She is vulnerable because she doesn't want to admit there's things she can't do with her friend, because she figures her friend would like leave her behind and she would lose her friend. Yeah, and it's about these relationships that are formed. These kids do find more in themselves than they started with, because essentially, they're just suburb kids. And I've loved, I really, really love the main antagonist of this. Jude Law is phenomenal. He's charming.
He's nailing it.
Threatening. I like the cast of characters around it. And I like the fact that every Star Wars show has to have a robot. I like this take on a robot. It's very charming. He's a pirate. He's like, "Arr!" And I love it.
"Arr, Captain!" And he's got the little mouse living in his eye socket, and it's just everything about it is great. Yeah, it's fun. It does have moments that are kind of scary. With Jude Law's character, because if you've been listening to us over on Holocron, I from the beginning said, well, I think this guy is he's gonna be nice for a while, he's gonna be bad for a while, and then maybe he'll have some redemption at the end. But oh my God, we're at episode 7, and no spoilers, because but please tune, if you do want spoilers, please tune into us over on Holocron Chronicles, which comes out every other week. He's gonna have to stretch for redemption after what happened in episode 7. There's no doubt about it. It's pretty rough.
And I really, really am. I like the fact that basically, this is a light spoiler, but basically the fact is that essentially the New Republic has created these hidden worlds.
No, the old Republic did.
Republic. Sorry, the Empire essentially.
No. We don't even know how. No, it was before the Empire. It was
the old Republic. It
was before the prequels. We don't even know how long ago those 6 planets were established. It could have been 1,000 years, and there are societies on them that are simply functioning as if It's just we're getting up and going to work every day. They don't know anything about what's outside of their planet.
Exactly. It's like
yeah.
those Japanese war veterans are like don't know that war ended, and that's exactly like
Right.
people think of this place as a legend, and
Pleasantville.
they are unaware of what's going around in the world around them.
Right.
And I appreciate that as a unique take on a story. So I
Good
really
job.
like this. I hope we get more things like this where it's can be lighter fare and to balance out a lot of the themes we've gotten lately, which is just
Right.
so like overbearing and everything's
Yeah.
sad and
Yeah,
you know.
Star Wars definitely needs, and it's funny because we're going through Peter and I over on Code are going through one of the seasons of DS9 where you have it's the Dominion War, so there's heavy. There'll be a Ferengi episode, heavy. There'll be a Ferengi episode where it's light or something like that, and then they'll go back into heavy instead of just something I don't really appreciate about more modern sci-fi. Maybe Discovery is an example, is that they just beat you over the head with like, you know, sad, scary kill, boom, kaboom, boom. So yeah, it's a good balance. And yeah, if you've not tuned in, obviously it's on Disney Plus, so do that. So speaking,
Perfect for kids, the whole family.
Yeah.
It's really a good show for Star Wars. I'm glad they did this.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, to keep this this theme going on, Skeleton Crew somehow tipped me off to the fact that I wanted to watch Andor again, and oh my god, holy cow, that's just such an incredible show. And again, if it's a Star Wars that could win over Todd Oxtra, you know it's got to have something that almost anybody could access and like. So we blasted through that, and then April was like, let's do Mandalorian again. Watch Mandalorian again. It's easy. It's 8 episodes. It's a total of 25 episodes over 3 seasons. It's easy to watch. Went from that to then watching the Book of Boba Fett. If you start to look at the Book of Boba Fett as part of an overall story, it gets to be less annoying that a big chunk of it is about the Mandalorian. There are parts of it to appreciate, and then moved back into Ahsoka, and then watched a little bit of Rebels and stuff. So I find that the sting of all of us saying, "Well, I think this is terrible," when the Star Wars stuff first comes out, is lessened. You know, get to love it a little bit more over time. And maybe it's kind of absence makes the heart grow fonder because the content is so spaced out because of the nature of streaming and the writer strike and COVID and so on and so forth has made things further apart. But yeah, I'm on a real Star Wars kick right now. I'm loving it. But it also makes me sad that we're only likely to get Andor season 2, maybe another Tales of the Jedi kind of thing around May the 4th, and then another seasons of Star Wars Visions, which was just not my. It's anime, so it's not my thing. But I do appreciate that other people can like it. So, but yeah, I'm digging it. And again, obviously, it's all on Disney Plus. You probably have Disney Plus, and if not, it's worth getting, especially with Andor coming out. But Todd, first movie of the year. We went and saw it last night. My wife lost her phone in the restaurant, and we had to deal with that this morning. That was not fun. But this movie was, it was funny. I'm like, we got to get out, do date night, whatever it is. And so it was 3 or 4, it was earlier this week. And what's coming out? Something called Den of Thieves 2. I'm like, okay. I said, that's a Jerry Butler movie, right? Isn't it a movie where he's in a police station and he's got to escape? She looked it up and she said, that's not what it is at all, but it is on Max. Let's watch it. We had not seen this movie at all, Den of Thieves. It came out in 2018. It had the guy who was porn stash from Orange is the New Black, Pablo Schreiber, Liev Schreiber's brother. It had
Halo Man.
Ice Cube Jr. Yeah, Halo Man. Had Ice Cube Jr., so Shay Jackson Jr. Jerry Butler was the star. It had 50 Cent was one of the bad guys in that movie.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. So jumping back in because we had some kerfuffle there, but yeah, the issue with this movie to me is that the first one was very off the rack, domestic, thieves of money or whatever. The second movie picks up, almost all takes place overseas in Europe, so Italy, France, whatever. It's supposed to be like your international man of mystery. Jerry Butler goes over to finally catch up with Ice Cube Jr., and it's super long and dull. It's super. That was what April and I were talking about. It's so dull that only the last 25 minutes there's any action going on that's at all interesting. It was
interesting.
It was it was a sequel that by no means needed to be made. That being said, the small theater that we were in, absolutely packed. Absolutely packed. I don't know if it's because the weather was bad or because this was the only thing that came out this week, unless I'm very much mistaken. So I am definitely curious to see the box office numbers for this movie for this weekend, because it was not at all good. It was an IP I didn't know anything about, and people went to go see it in droves. I don't have an explanation.
I swear the first movie sounded like it was like a direct-to-video
Right.
thing.
I don't know, man. But anyway, really bizarre. But it's out there now, and I do not recommend it. I thought it was super boring. Some of the acting in it was really hard to stomach. And yeah, you really barely needed to have anything to do to see the first one. So yeah, that's all I got. So with that, that's the end of the Geek Easy. Todd, the time has come. I'm so excited. It's time to roll out the reddest of red. Well, you've already got the red carpet. I guess I've got to jump there and join you on the red carpet for the 2024 Friendy Awards. Let's do it.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Thank you, Tina. The means been gathered for a topic or game to be entertained, and this week we have the biggest night in entertainment, actually the biggest Saturday afternoon in entertainment. That is the 2024 Friendy Awards. This is where we celebrate and pan the best and worst of 2024 with geek media. That's movies, TV, collectibles, comics, and a look back at the year of nerd. So Charlie, we always start with our news stories of the year. So we've got, I put down 8 of them, but obviously a lot of these are similar themes, good and the bad. So I'm going to start with the first one. Public domain horror stories. These got to be like one of the biggest things for some reason, but all these public domain, all these prop IPs have gone to public domain, including Winnie the Pooh, Popeye, Peter Pan, Steamboat Willie. And now they're all horror films, which I think is a weird place to take them too.
I mean, is it paying off? I don't really know.
I don't know.
But they're still making them. They're still making them. So, all right, I'll jump in. I'll take number 2. It's funny because I worked for a bank years back, but Too Big to Fail? We had a number of high-profile box office bombs in 2024. Furiosa, spinning out of Mad Max. Joker 2, didn't see it. Horizon, the bane of Todd's existence, which was Kevin Costner, a Western. Borderlands, which was the bane of my existence because it was on my bracket. And Megalopolis, which Francis Ford Coppola made with his own money, which made like $4 million. I mean, oh my God.
He couldn't find a distributor for it, and he finally found one that's like, so basically nobody took any risk on this film, and it just was crazy. And the funniest part about all this, Charlie, is Kevin Costner essentially was doing great big business over on Yellowstone, and he gave it up for this project, which you own it, Charlie. So I'm waiting for your review.
It's, you know what, him and it's Waterworld over. No, what was the big one? The Postman. That was his passion project. Back
Waterworld was huge too. That was one that like they never thought they were budget. There's still a Waterworld ride or entertainment spectacular at Universal Studios, though. You can see that.
Unbelievable. All right, number 3 is RDJ. Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to the MCU as Doctor Doom in 2026 for the 2-part Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. And we revealed the cast of the Fantastic Four film, which will come out this summer. Very exciting stuff.
Yep. Superman finally got its trailer at the end of December or in December. And apparently is just the numbers for that trailer are huge. So that hopefully bodes well for people opening their heart to Superman. I just want people to give Superman a chance.
Yeah, big time. Big time. Oh, this one's special to me. I always kind of loathe sticking G.I. Joe and the Transformers together, but I got to tell you, it's Image Comics, right? Image Skybound is now producing a Transformers comic. They're producing a G.I. Joe rebirthed and paired that together with the Void Rivals, which I know I read the first issue of that. Absolutely spectacular. I love the new G.I. Joe stuff. I'll talk a little bit about it in my selections as well. So, and then number 6, Star Trek, excuse me, blah, blah, what do I do?
Oops.
While we were wrapping up, obviously Star Trek Lower Decks, which happened very recently, Tawny Newsome, who's a great lady who I've met a couple of different times out there in the fandom world, who played Beckett Mariner on that show, is teaming up with another writer to do a Star Trek live action comedy. We don't know a lot about it. It's potentially taking place outside of your traditional world of Starfleet and the Federation, and I'm sensing workplace comedy. Maybe, I don't know. Could be fun. And then also, if you're tuning into us over on our Patreon, Todd and I just today recorded a great blurb about DC's new Absolute line. We read the first couple issues of Absolute Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. Absolutely fun and spectacular. The most different takes on those characters I think that has ever been done. They're very enjoyable, and they're available in comic shops now. And then,
You're at the ground floor of that series, which is great. So new readers. And yeah, Charlie, the last story I thought this was interesting because we just talked about Star Wars, where it's going, and this new trilogy was just dropped, and Simon Kinberg is going to write it and direct it. Which quite honestly then says, what is this?
Right.
What does this mean? And it just, once again, Star Wars, I don't know half the things if they've actually announced them or if it's just rumors at this point. I just need somebody to tell me what's true and what's not.
Right. I have an honorable mention. And I put down a couple of things, but I'd like how you did it better. Honorable mention is the extraordinarily bizarre news story of an exhibit in Glasgow called the Willy Wonka Experience.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, I have a link for the story. You can find it on Wikipedia and just give it a Google. But it was this very weird thing for children, walking them through what was basically a warehouse and introducing us all to a character called the Unknown. It sounds like a Donald Trump story that I'm telling right now. We all love him, folks, don't we? The Unknown.
Yeah, this is actually going to be made into a horror film, I assume.
Oh my god!
It just feels that way.
Absolutely.
Oh well, those are the interesting stories of 2024. Can't wait for 2025. And with that, we get into our first category, which is comic books, collectibles, and books if you read them as well. And I've got a couple of comments from our team over on our Discord, which is great. We've got Raul Giver and we've got Jordan. I don't know Jordan's last name.
I forget it. She's one of the fine young ladies who's in our Star Trek fan club chapter. Very nice young lady, and I'm drawing a blank on her name too. But great gal.
So Raul says for collectibles, his favorite was Dread Suit Samus Figma, so basically for a character from Metroid. This is a collectible statue, so very, very cool. Raul said for comics, his favorite was The Last Mermaid. Don't know what that book is. And his biggest disappointment is Marvel Gods.
Ooh, ouch. I don't know much.
Yeah, that one I think was announced. It was like, don't know if that one's going to deliver or not.
And it did not. What did Jordan say? What's Jordan got going
Jordan
on?
says, so Jordan's favorite in collectibles, there was it's interesting. Gene Ha came to Grand Valley State University Lakers Con this year, and I got him to sign my Wonder Woman's Historia, The Amazons, and he drew my main character of my novels for me. Very, very cool.
GVSU's LakerCon, run by my friend and fellow recording partner Jonathan Snedeker, who is a professor at Grand Valley. Because he was
fantastic.
He was telling me all about it when it was going on, because he and I were drinking buddies. We go to the old Brewery Vivant here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Good stuff.
Very cool. And then she said for comics, it's been an ongoing run, but Batman, Superman, World's Finest by Mark Waid and Dan Moore, which we did talk about on our comic, The Spin Rack, last year. So I'm glad that book is still finding fans. So very, very cool.
All right.
Okay, Charlie, it's time for ours. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, let's do a countdown from 5.
Okay.
So I'll go. My number 5 comic / book / collectible / moments is comic series. That is the last issue is going to drop here shortly, but it's called Avengers Assemble. But the ERS at the end of Avengers are capitalized as an acronym: Emergency Response. I forget what the S stands for now. Damn it. Emergency Response System. And what it basically is, there is a single thoroughfare of an overall arcing story, but basically the Avengers Mansion in Manhattan has been reactivated. That is the classic Avengers headquarters. And there's a group of team there's a team group, which I absolutely love it. They do wear leather jackets, so we're bringing that back. But these folks are on call around the mansion, and if a call comes in for an emergency, whoever's there is going on the mission. No matter where it is, they jump in a Quinjet and they're off. It's taken us, for me, it took me back to what I loved about the Avengers, the 80s and the 90s, the leather jackets, the classic setting. And it's a great, I mean, you've got a great set of Wonder Man, Cap, Quasar, Shang-Chi, She-Hulk, or I say Living Lightning, who's a West Coast Avengers character. This brought to me back all of the things that I loved about the Avengers growing up. So I was super enthusiastic about this miniseries.
Very, very cool. So my number 5 was Avengers Twilight. That was a book we also did in Spinner Rack.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a cool take on a future look at the Avengers, but it really was a Captain America story. And I really enjoyed that quite a bit. Thought it was fun, kind of a more of a forward look, almost like a future look at the world of Marvel. And yeah, I enjoyed that book.
Cool. Good deal. All right. My number 4, I read this back in the summertime, was a miniseries in honor of the 40th anniversary of Secret Wars. It was funny. I watched that channel that you and I love, the Secret Galaxy guy. I watched his throwdown about Secret Wars earlier today. It was one of those love it or hate it series, but something that was always a giggle about that series is that they had they had a series of action figures that came out with it. They released several characters that did not appear in the 12-issue miniseries. Well, what this did, it was focused around Spider-Man. It was set in between like 2 panels of like issues 8 and 9, where he stepped through a door and appeared in an adventure with all of the characters who were figures that did not appear in the series, therefore making it canonical. So yeah, Hobgoblin, Falcon, Iceman, Constrictor, Electro, it was just a weird fun deal.
And did they all have their shields?
You know what? They actually worked that in. I couldn't even believe it. It was absolutely a ton of fun. So yeah, that's my number 4.
Okay, my number 4 is, Charlie's gonna love this, but it's continuing on with the Transformers mashups, and they did a Knight Rider Transformers crossover, and it makes sense because he's a Knight Rider kit. It's a vehicle, uber intelligent, becomes a transformer. I believe it's called Agent Knight. I did not secure it, but I'm still going to get it. But it's also has the light, the classic light that goes back and forth, and does the sounds for $50. That is pretty impressive. So I like that that's happening, and I know we're going to get more of these, and I love them to pieces. Can't wait until we get like the racist transformer who's the General Lee. Or the A-Team van. I mean, it's basically Ironhide at that point with a mohawk like Mr. T. Cannot wait for that to happen too. So there you go.
Oh my
Knight Rider Transformer.
I love it. All right, jumping into number 3 is a YouTube program. So which is not exactly a TV show, but I'll call it a moment. Todd, you've heard me talk about this. I joined the Patreon so I can get a T-shirt. The YouTube channel That Aged Great, which is by a comedian. I'm drawing a blank on his name, and I believe it's his brother who's basically it's like a radio show where his brother just
it's like his Ed McMahon.
Yeah, like laughs at
everything.
Yo. But what they're basically taking is movies largely from the 1980s, but some going further and some that are a little newer, and just giving them the what it looks like in modern parlance, and just absolutely tearing it apart. So think about movies like One of the Guys, or Revenge of the Nerds, or Milk Money from the 90s, or Hard Bodies from the 80s. Just really bad.
They're doing what we do, Charlie. They just don't do it in like a full segment. Theirs are pretty short, right?
Yeah, it's 10-minute segments. If you join the Patreon, you also get expanded versions to each over about an hour that are audio, which I enjoy listening to. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I absolutely love what these guys do, so I highly recommend it. A lot of their content is paywalled, but some of it is available for free on you. It's paywalled like our stuff is. I'm not going to knock on them. I'm not going to drag them. They're doing what we do. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Go check out the free content, and then certainly feel free to tune into their Patreon because it's totally worth it. I have a lot of fun.
Perfect. My number 3 was the Magneto helmet I got as part of like the X-Men 97.
Yeah.
I actually used it for an event I went to this year. So I liked it. It's not exactly great to wear. It's not exactly like, it needs more padding or something to hold it there.
Is it like this Cobra Commander helmet? Oh, it's over there now. Does have, in like my X-Wing helmet, does have padding on the inside, but that one doesn't, huh?
Yeah, it's got some, but not enough. It definitely does. And when you do not have hair, you basically got your skull. You need a little more padding. So
you don't have any padding. Yeah.
If I was ever to wear it again, I would definitely put in more padding to make sure it doesn't clank around my head like that. But it's very cool, very fun. It hangs up there, and it's a nice little piece. So I like it. It wasn't very expensive.
Very good. Number 2 for me is a bona fide collectible. It is my last big HasLab. That would be the G.I. Joe Dragonfly. This is my second in the G.I. Joe classified line. This is the second one they produced, but not the last. They produced another one this year, which I did not pick up upon. The Dragonfly is essentially the Army's Apache helicopter, which is very big in the 80s. But it's beautiful. It's to 12th scale. It has a lot of, it came with basically 6 figures? 5 or 6 figures with all the different unlocks, which were classic characters released that had, some of whom had not been seen today. One of them, which was the co-pilot, Glenda, was a female version of Scarlet that was from G.I. Joe in the G.I. Joe series in South America. So it was a very, very much deep cut that even I wasn't aware of. Super cool. I've kind of reached end of the line with the G.I. Joe classified series because I got a lot of them, but I kind of got where I needed to get, so I'm kind of done. But it's a wonderful series, and it's a super, super duper cool collectible. But it was a Kickstarter, and your only way to find it is aftermarket. The good news is we bought 2. If you really want one, you should drop me a DM because I have one to sell. That is still in the box, still in the shipping container, so it's completely virginal and unmolested.
Oh, thank God! I'm glad. I mean, I would hate to know if something was molested and not find out.
Precisely.
That's a horrible term. Let's just not use it anymore.
Okay. It's canceled.
There you go. My number 2 was the Cobra Commander / Duke comics. I didn't read all of the GL comics, but really enjoyed those. Thought they finally put great talent on those with those characters and regrounded them and brought them into a modern landscape. And it basically was resetting everything. So you didn't have to worry about like, oh, we gotta, pay attention. Oh, we're going to have Cold Slither be on an episode. Maybe that'll happen in the future. I don't know. Yes. But they're just really highly enjoyable books.
Absolutely.
There's obviously the Scarlet and the Destro book, and now there's going to be the ongoing book. So that has me intrigued to see how it goes. And because I've already been reading the Transformers and the Void Rivals. So I'm glad it's all working out.
It's good stuff. Yeah, I'm a huge, huge fan of that series. That was actually one of mine before I found things I liked it more. Well, here's my number 1. This would be, and I talked about it last week, and you can see it right behind me, the G.I. Joe Image Skybound Marvel Comics Compendium. This is the Kickstarter I chose to do this year. It was $300, which it kind of sounds like a lot of money until what you get, which is every single solitary issue of the 1982 to 1994 series, plus Special Missions, which was a side series of about 30 issues. You get all of the G.I. Joe Transformers miniseries, also from the 80s, and the Order of Battle as well. And all the unlocks included different stickers, different posters, patches, trading cards. It was just absolutely spectacular, and they're in bound volumes with the nice coating on the side, and it's like you're reading a Shakespeare text from the year 1700. It's just absolutely fantastic. So I was super enthused, and it was worth every nickel.
My number 1 was the Amalgam Omnibus. Talked about this actually on the podcast last week. It's pretty great. Getting a book that which I own a lot of single issues, but the fact that these have not been able to be purchased in a new format in over 30 years and probably won't again is pretty amazing. So I would say, folks, if you're interested in the Marvel versus DC Amalgam or the Marvel versus DC Omnibus, get them while they last, because unless something changes, they will be very hard to get and they'll be on eBay.
Get him, get him. All right. And my disappointment. This will probably not be surprising because I feel like I probably drop this every year, but you know what? I'm disappointed by it every year. Over in retail, the two action figure lines that I continue to collect are the Marvel Legends and the Star Wars Black Series. We're seeing prices start to creep up. We've added $3 or $4. But we're also seeing soaring clearance both at stores like Target and then at Ollie's, which is a chain here in the Midwest. Stacks and stacks of these figures pouring in for $5 or $10. And it's absolutely, and if you really want to get a figure and try to do something to support the line and help it to go forward, you're really not going to find it at retail. It's very sparse. I would love to just order them at my local comic shop, but I know even my local guy has a hard time getting these from Diamond. So, the retail model between these figures is super broken, and it just continues to disappoint me.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, Kmart, Walmart, whatever, it was just that's where you just bought your $5 figure, and then going into this more high end line. It just, I don't know who it's for except for a niche audience that at that point, they're not going to probably go to Target to get them. I don't know. It's a weird pursuit, but you know what? They'll stop doing it once. Apparently it stops making money. So,
true. In some ways they're still making it. So what about you?
My biggest disappointment was probably the new Ultimate books. I just did not see anything there. I've heard the Ultimate book with the characters, the team is supposed to be good.
Okay.
But I just found not much interesting in the takes on these, kind of like with Absolute. I really like their take on these. These ones just felt like it's more of the same. So I don't know. Just didn't resonate with me.
I read a few of the Spider-Man ones, and like they have the X-Men one that I really didn't care for. So
I mean, that one did feel a little bit different because it's like very anime. It's a different approach, but still, the Black Panther and the X-Men one just wasn't doing it, or the Spider-Man didn't do anything for me.
I hear you. All right, let's move.
I have one more thing. This is like more of a favorite geek moment of the year, and that was going to the Uncanny Experience.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So cool to do something so unique and different in my own hometown, of Minneapolis, and just getting to meet a lot of X-Men fans. I'm so glad this is happening, and it seemed was very successful. So, and I got to run into a bunch of folks that we both know, which was great. It was fun. Meeting all these people coming to Minneapolis for this event, and got to ask Chris Claremont some questions, which was great, and a great fun time.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's jump into talking about the cinema. Did any of our special guest stars have thoughts about movies?
Yes. So Raul said his favorite movie was Transformers 1. His biggest disappointment was Madam Web.
Oh, I feel like that might come up again later. We'll see.
It might. Yeah. So that's great. I think the Transformers 1 is getting a lot of love, which is great. It's probably the best Transformers movie we've gotten.
Yeah.
So except for my nostalgia themed original Transformers movie. But it's great.
Gotcha.
And then let's see.
Jordan said she loved Deadpool and Wolverine and Wicked. No big surprise there. Both great films.
Very, very good. Yeah. Yeah. So let's go to ours, Charlie.
All right.
I'm not sure why it's I covered it up, but there should be new to you favorite, biggest disappointment, and top 5. So I think they're all there. Yep.
All right.
Well, disappointment.
We'll start with the top 5. My number 5, and this was a highly anticipated movie for me, was the Civil War. Not the one with the Avengers, but it was one that would talk about what a civil war would look like in the United States. And I was really looking forward to this one, and I was not disappointed. So it was a chilling tale of something that, Todd, we all thought was going to happen in this country anyway, and it still might after January.
It was 20th. In my top 10, Charlie. It was a very good movie. Yeah. It was a very good year. Okay, so for my top 5 movie was Furiosa, a movie that I love the action, no fat on that bone, and I love just the way it was told. Disappointed that obviously, and it's a prequel, but to a character we didn't know anything about. So it's great that it happened, but obviously did not do well enough that I think that the Mad Max universe might be going into hibernation.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, my number 4, no big surprise because it probably ends up on a lot of people's list, is Wicked. Again, I've not seen the musical. I was totally aware of it. Everybody knows about The Wizard of Oz, obviously, since it's lived in our culture for nearly 100 years. But I adore this. I'm a musical guy going back to my teenage years when I was in musicals, when I was in high school, and I love music and I love quality performers, which we saw in spades in this. And I loved the kind of the touch on magic and a little bit of the Harry Potter vibe that this gave me. So I had a lot of fun watching this. It was an enormous success that'll be followed up by another enormous success at the end of this year when the sequel comes out around Thanksgiving.
For good.
For
Horrible name.
good.
My number 4 was Dune 2.
Dude.
I thought it was breathtaking to watch. Really love the fact that they landed the ending. The performances were amazing. Austin Butler didn't have an Elvis voice, which was great. And I just loved that this type of epic movie came together, and people really enjoyed it. Did very well at the box office.
Absolutely. All right, number 3. Legacy sequels are dicey, but we got one that was a total joy. That would be this fall's Beetlejuice. Michael Douglas. His name is actually Michael Douglas. That's
true.
I can't
Yes,
believe I said it, but
that's true.
We know him better as Michael Keaton reprising the role from 1988, bringing back Catherine O'Hara and what's the woman's name? The mom, Lydia.
Winona Ryder.
Thank you very much. And the every gal Jenna Ortega as the young daughter was a combo that was.
Can we just call her the every goth? Because it seems
every
like
goth? No, because we also have Mia Goth, so that could get confusing.
That's true.
But anyway, delightful film, had a lot of fun, and I believe it did well. I think it was
Did very well.
Was well received. So I'm glad to hear that. So yeah, that's my number 3.
My number 3, Alien Romulus. Alien's a series that hasn't had a lot of juice lately, but I thought this brought it back, put us back in a very similar situation, but with more of a almost like kids go into a haunted mansion type of thing, and there's ghosts, except there's aliens trying to kill you. There was a couple of elements I thought were a little cheesy, like there's a line that I'm like, yeah, they didn't need to do that, but I really was charmed. I love the tone. It felt like I was back in like that 80s aesthetic tech, with the big buttons and everything. So I really enjoyed that movie quite a bit. And Aliens looks like they're going to have kind of a renaissance.
Yeah, renaissance.
Yes.
Number 2, I'm right on board with our pal Raul. I loved Transformers 1. Transformers has had a horrible legacy since the early aughts because of Michael Bay, with bright spots here and there, but this really delivered in an animated format, which is how Transformers was given to us back in 1984. So for me, that's really where it is on my heart. And it gave us a prequel that still didn't feel irrelevant because prequels are such a mixed bag. So totally dug this. I assume that there's going to be a sequel to this at some juncture. So I look forward to seeing it.
It didn't do very well financially, which just really sucks, considering the horrible Transformers movie did really well financially.
Yeah, that is, people do speak with their wallets, but people are also stupid. So, yeah.
Exactly. So the next time we see the Transformers, it might be teamed up with G.I. Joe on the live screen. That could go horribly wrong.
I'm not looking forward to it. I hate to say it.
No. My number 2 was Deadpool and Wolverine. Great film. In regards to just 2 franchises and characters I absolutely adore that are now officially part of the MCU. It delivered so much, and I'm so happy it came together. Love this movie, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Precisely. Well, dovetailing in, that is my number 1 film of the year. The MCU has been in a funk since the end of Endgame. We've had some highs, there's some middles and some lows. But this put a punch in with a fan favorite character. It was a love letter to the end of the Fox era of the X-Men films, which were also a very mixed bag. But it also took really the Fox Marvel in general, with a great cameo by Chris Evans as the Human Torch from the Fantastic Four films from the aughts. So this was delightful. I've not gone back and revisited it, but I will be watching it soon because it is the end of the MCU watch through. So look forward to it. What about you? What's your number 1?
This is really surprising, but when I think about it, I'm like, wow, this movie really landed for me. And that was Quiet Place Day One.
Oh, yeah.
I really just I had no preconceived notions. I haven't even seen 2, but with this, I'm like a prequel. I mean, like, I just thought the performances and the impact and just the thoughtfulness of this
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
wasn't like anybody won or anything was solved. It was about survival
Right.
and those 2 characters and just their relationship and what delivered.
Yeah.
Just really, and the sacrifice that was made at the end was just like very touching. So Quiet
Yeah.
Place day 1. Thank you.
I dig it. Good deal. All right. New to me favorite. I'm lucky because when we do Shocktober, we
Yeah.
watch older films. So I picked out an ironic favorite because it was so silly, was Return of the Living Dead from
Oh
1985.
God.
It was it was between that and The Fog,
Yep.
and I was more
Yeah.
entertained by
Oh,
Return of the Living Dead.
the
Because the fog was so where this was a blast. One naked zombie and
Yep.
the mortuary and the the vivisected dog was alive, and it was a lot of fun
It's
bits.
a goofy film. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun bits. I dig it. What about you?
Mine was Rise of the Planet of the Apes, a movie, that series I said I wasn't interested, and I saw the
Yeah.
first one. That was really a great movie.
That was
So
the-
I
that
really want to
that
go
was
and
the
watch
first
the
one,
rest of those.
That was
Yeah,
the first
yeah,
one
really.
with James Franco. Yeah,
Yep,
and
absolutely.
John Lithgow. Yeah, that was good. This one back in 2011, I think.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. Good stuff. All right, biggest disappointment time. I have a tie. There's a couple of ties
Oh,
in my overall
okay.
rankings. Not surprising. It's coming from the world of Sony. Actually, could have been a three-way tie. But you know what? I'm actually gonna change it. No, I'm gonna make it a three-way tie.
Oh,
Madam Web plus Venom 3 plus Craven. It was a 1, 2,
really?
3.
Craven. I thought you said Craven wasn't the worst.
It's a tie, but it's barely a tie. But definitely Venom 3 and Madam Web were
Okay.
just trash.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just don't know how they can do so bad. But the good news is, as near as we can tell, the reign of terror has come to an end, and things are going to start in a different direction.
We will see.
We will see. So, what about you?
This was I took more disappointment. Like, I wanted it to be good, and I wasn't sure. And that was Trap. That was a movie where, I
Yeah.
root for M. Night Shyamalan. I'm like, oh, this could be really
Yeah.
interesting and look really
Yeah.
good. I like the cast and everything. And then when it happened, I'm like, what the
What are
what?
you doing?
Exactly. Yeah. So not very, M. Night's probably on one of those downturns.
Yeah.
We'll see if he gets another upturn. That's his
Yeah.
career, though. He's
We'll
like
see.
John Travolta.
Yeah,
He's going to do a Look Who's Talking, and then he'll
Yeah.
come back with Pulp Fiction.
he endures. All right, let's move on.
Charlie, I want to end on a good note. I had an honorable mention of a movie that
Please.
it's not the greatest movie in the world, but I just thought it was just so charming and different, and I definitely think everybody should watch it. And that's Lisa Frankenstein. Such a goofy, fun, different type of horror comedy film, romance. I thought it was absolutely charming, but obviously not my top 5, but really hit me in a different place. I'm like, okay,
Fair.
good job.
All right. Okay, let's move on to TVs. TVs.
TVs?
TVs. Oh, yeah. I've got a TV for sale if you want one. But what did you just do?
I'm moving
Okay.
our listener stuff. So,
You freak me out. So we'll start with Raul. What? Stop doing that. I'm trying to read it. We'll start with Raul. He did like a show called Scavenger's Reign. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that one.
Sci-fi, HBO.
Okay.
I believe it came out last year, but yeah, I watched one episode of very unique science fiction animated
Gotcha.
science fiction show.
Gotcha. And Jordan was enjoying something called Dr. Odyssey. She felt it was going to be a turn my brain off show, but I'm obsessed in doing character analysis, and it's not high art, but it's way deeper than you would think it would be. Well, you know what? Entertainment is where it's at. That's why we watch these things. So good deal. Okay.
And Jordan's biggest disappointment, probably 911 and 911 Lone Star current seasons. The pacing issues are glaring for 911, and Lone Star is giving me whiplash. Wish some of its plot choices. Isn't that the one with Rob Lowe?
Yeah. And I know Angela Bassett's in maybe the other one. I could be wrong.
Wasn't it like a hurricane of bees or something on that show? I think I remember that.
Oh my God. It's entirely possible. All right. Well, let's kick it off. My number 5 favorite television program was Fallout. Right on the heels of how much we loved The Last of Us. This delivered. It was a lot of fun. Ella Purnell she's also a Star Trek alum because she voices a character over on Star Trek Prodigy, which we're hoping is going to come back. And she really delivered. It was a lot of fun. And of course, we had Wally Goggs. Walton Goggins is the cowboy guy. And just a lot of great appearances. I really definitely enjoyed that one.
Absolutely. Great show. My number 5 was Echo. Once again, one of those shows that came out seems like forever ago on Marvel. A character I was like, I'm not interested in this at all. And then when I watched it, I'm like, this is really, really entertaining. It was really delivered for me. I know some people just dismissed it, and I don't think many people watched it. But really, Echo, having that character coming from where that character was in Hawkeye, and then actually getting fully developed, really delivered for me. So
yeah,
Echo's number 5.
Excellent. Number 4 for me. The Walking Dead is such a mixed bag these days. I didn't love the one they did in New York City with Maggie and Negan. Carol and Daryl is kind of, but the one I really buckled down and paid attention to was The Ones That Live, which was the Rick and Michonne one.
I forgot that came out.
Yeah, I know. That's why we go through these flows and it sparks the attention. But this came out in first quarter. I know we watched it right when we got back from the cruise, which was in March. And it they really delivered. The villain of that was Terry O'Quinn, who's a Michigan native, but you love him from shows like Lost.
Yep.
And it I really absolutely adored it. I think they did a good thing where they landed 2 of the most important characters from the franchise back to a good place. So I absolutely dug it.
I'll have to believe you because I have not watched it.
Well, it's there to be seen with the next.
Of course, it is.
The next time you tune into AMC, that is.
Okay.
Right,
my number 4 was Fallout. Once again, Charlie, you already talked about it. Just great way to utilize an IP, but do tell your own story, and that's exactly what Fallout did. Because there is really no set story in Fallout. There is one like overarching story in each Fallout, like you have to save your dad or something like that. Yeah. But they just said, hey, play in the world, and delivered, and they captured what the world is like. And I just so happy it turned out good, and it's coming back, and people are excited for it.
I love it. Good deal. Well, my number 3 is probably a little higher on your list, or maybe it's a lack up. That'd be X-Men 97. We've been looking for some animated gold to come back to Marvel to compete with DC, because that's really where DC lives. So we went the nostalgia route, but it tapped into something that is so core for not only people like you and me, Todd, but even really the next generation younger than us that were actual kids back in 1992 when that X-Men series came out, where we were in high school. But this hit all the notes. It gave us some intrigue of bringing in some other characters from outside of the X-Men verse, like Captain America. Love seeing him. Did we get a Spider-Man in this one? Did he make an appearance? I almost feel like he did. Okay, gotcha. I should probably go back and give it a rewatch, but I adored it. And again, I know it tied in very closely with several very key 90s storylines that happened with the X-Men. And that's something that we comic book lovers can really appreciate. So they did it. They did it, and it's going to be back for 3 seasons, seasons 2 and 3.
I think 2 more. Yeah, 2 more. I think, yeah.
All right, good deal. All right, what do you got?
That's my number 3, Charlie. X-Men 97.
I thought it would be your number 1.
Great modernization of what they did back in the 90s, but the animation was so much better. I thought writing and acting was so much better. Yeah, and they brought back some of the original cast in actually different roles. I did get to see some of those actors at the Uncanny Experience, which is very cool. But yeah, I just love it how they've adapted more stories from the comics, which is great. And maybe animation is the way we do that, right? Yeah. Maybe that's how we get comic stories adapted versus the MCU's take on it. Right. And this makes me feel very promised that we're going to get more animation from Marvel that will be serving a different audience than maybe the MCU does, which is maybe like more classic stories on the screen.
Yeah, I will tell you, those couple of episodes of X-Men 92 we watched that was hard for me. It's not bad. Care for it.
No budget. Yeah, it was rough. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Well, number 2 for me is easy because we've already talked about it back in the Geek Easy Skeleton Crew. what a great show. Love having Star Wars be fun again. Love engaging characters. Love a different take of a story, kind of a mystery, and you don't really know how it's going to end. Which because we get the finale this week, so I'm into it. I like you. I want Star Wars to continue to take a Deep Space Nine approach to heavy, light. Heavy light. Don't make everything so gloom and doom. Give us something to look forward to. So, what about you?
Number 2 is Shogun. This was the adaptation of the James Clavell novel. We had previously gotten something similar in the late 70s, early 80s. And this was highly focused from a Japanese perspective rather than the Westerner. Phenomenal acting, phenomenal just scenery and cinematography. Really loved every episode was like, wow, what's going to happen next? And it's history, which is great.
Yeah.
But it's history with a little bit of, obviously
dramatization. Yeah, I'm sure.
Dramatization, but absolutely love this to pieces. And apparently they are going to tell more stories, not this story, but they're going to take this world and tell more stories, which I think is really cool. So I loved it. Very acclaimed. It was highly nominated for the Golden Globes. So I'm excited that this has found an audience.
Good deal. All right. There's always somebody at the top of the heap. And for me, in 2024, it was Agatha all along. Watching this show through the eyes of my wife, April, who is an enormous fan of witch and Wiccan culture, being that she has background in it herself, and then a huge fan of the WandaVision series from a couple of years ago, created an enjoyable story that I found in a lot of ways very unpredictable to the end. I love the twists and turns that they took. It was very enjoyable. Whether this ends up being a one-off or if this ends up tying into a second season or other projects that come along the line, I just don't care, because it was a great story, and it's something that can largely be lacking in this franchise world that we live in. Everything's got to be franchised out. They just told a great story, and if that's the end of it, that's the end of it. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I enjoyed the show. Glad you liked it. I know it found a lot of fans, so I'm happy to hear that and have Disney do some different type of stories that feel a little bit different. My number 1 is Penguin. Holy cow. If you're a fan of The Sopranos.
I gotta watch it to have it be a favorite. I gotta get around to it.
I love this to pieces. I like the fact that it's in the world of the Batman, but you don't have to care about that. You don't have to bring anything forward. Yep, you don't have to bring anything forward. And the performances were amazing, and just really love the pieces. And the fact that they did at the very end brought in a couple of things that you could say are Easter eggs for the world of Batman. Hey, it's even more there. But if you didn't care about it, it wouldn't mean anything, and you just move on. So loved it. Once I started really getting into it, I committed to it, and I'm like, yep, couldn't stop watching it. Man, tragic tale, and just really well told.
Good deal. All right. Favorite ongoing series, which actually ended up coming to an end, was the final season of Superman and Lois. Again, this is one that April was really engaged in. It's unfortunately on the CW app, which is one of the crappier apps out there, but they eventually end up on Max. So you can really find the entire series on Max. But this took a different take on giving a finality to a story that really wrapped up. In the end, Superman ended up having a life well lived. That I won't spoil it for you, but
thank you.
It was great. I encourage you to check it out. I don't know when it lands on Max, but the CW app is very fickle, so you can't necessarily find
Usually it's right after it ends. I think that's how it's kind of like Netflix used to do that with the CW shows.
Yeah.
Like once a season ended, it was just boom, goes right to the.
So you might be able to snag it there, but that was me. What about you?
I'm glad to hear it. I liked what I saw. Once again, it was out of sight, out of mind, and I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. And the one thing I just couldn't get past was Michael Kudlett and his weird take on Luthor.
Yeah. It was very different. It was very like biker gang Luthor. It was very bizarre. Well, because that's who he is. You think about him like on Abraham from The Walking Dead, eat my ass or whatever his catchphrase was.
I get that. I just was not expecting Lex Luthor to look like a hobo with a beard.
Yeah,
it was just a weird look.
It ends up working out. All right, what's yours?
Okay, so my favorite ongoing was House of the Dragons. We're on season 2. I don't know how many seasons we'll get, but once again, that show, it lulled and had some things, and it kind of felt like that season could have delivered more at the end. But it's a show. It's must-see TV for me. Love it to pieces. I'm glad. Don't know when we're getting it again. Hopefully, not longer than 2026.
4 years at this point.
Yeah.
Favorite new to you, and this is, Todd will set me up sometimes with show. Oh, you got to watch. It was the U.S. version of the sitcom Ghosts. We discovered that earlier this year. That is over on Paramount Plus. They are now in their 3rd season, maybe 2nd season. I'm not sure.
4th? I don't know. Yeah,
could be, but it's delightful. It's got the nice young lady who was Liv Moore on the was it iZombie?
iZombie.
And the guy
it's a show. That's a show I need to just finish. I never finished it. I watched some of it, but not all of it.
And her husband he's a stand-up comic, but it's great. Yeah, it's a great cast of comedic performers that you end up seeing a lot of stuff. But it's a ton of fun. What about you?
Mine is a show that I really enjoyed watching with my son, and that's Cyberpunk Edgerunners. This is and it's only 1 season, as far as we know. It's basically an animation based on this video game series we love to pieces, and it's basically a slice of life about these characters that are basically in the future, kind of like mafia people, but it's all cyberpunk. So you've got like people that have been turned into cyborgs and things like that, but it's a lot about heists, but also kind of the bad things that those cybernetics do to you that can make you but it's over the top, it's very adult, but my son and I are enjoying it quite a bit because we both played the game, and so it's been a great thing to bring us together, and it's something that I'm like, oh, I like the way they've done this. So that is my favorite new to you.
Good deal. All right, biggest disappointment. This is my second tie. And one is not surprising, one might be, but I'm guilty because I continue to watch it. But biggest disappointment is The Acolyte. We don't need to go over that ground again, keep beating that horse into glue, but it just did not. The director was very intended. I'm going to give you something that's different, and you're probably not going to like it. Well, you did, and you got canceled. So
you did
it. Who was laughing? Who was laughing now? And the other one, which I continue to watch, is Tyler Sheridan's new show, The Landman. Billy Bob Thornton is the star. He's great. I like Bad Santa is a Christmas movie we don't rewatch. This show brings out the absolute worst in all of the things about Tyler Sheridan. It's very sexist. It's forcing characters down your throat, trying to make them interesting, and they're not. Trying to force plot lines into characters that are dull and bloated, and it's just going nowhere. And something I noticed about both this and The Lioness, which is his other show on Paramount Plus, they take every opportunity they can to drop F-bombs, like it's a challenge, and it's just, how it's like with bad language. I hate it when it's used ceaselessly, like dropping a goddamn here and there. It's a goddamn this and a goddamn that. This show does that ad nauseum, but I still continue to watch it. I just hope it gets canceled so that I don't have to get dragged.
So it's your junk food. It's your junk food. Yeah,
it's my junk food. So what about you? All right, take us home with yours.
It's so funny because there's you haven't met him, but he's part of the nerd chat, and we've podcasted him before on the video game show. He loved some shows, but then he said like Landman's one of his favorite shows. I'm like, so I was just trying to get a basis of like, should I watch this show? But after you told me, like, no, I think you confirmed my suspicions, but maybe it's just, it hits right with some people, and maybe the people just want to see Ellie Lerner naked. And that makes it good enough. And
you do, not constantly, but you definitely do see there is some boobage in this without a doubt. But yeah, it's very dull and sexist, and your suspension of disbelief will not carry you through this show. Okay. It goes too far.
Good to know. Well, I also share my biggest disappointment with you, Charlie. The Acolyte. Very disappointed that they kind of built up some characters that I thought were going to be a mainstay of the show. And it turned into something where I felt like we're trying to make X happen. And it just didn't work for me.
Tune in next season for X. They were putting all these things in place. Oh, you got to tune in next season to see. And it was like when I think either you and I have talked about this, or this came out. I think maybe Mark and I talked about this on Holocron. When you spend a freshman season trying to build interest for a payoff that would be in a second season that may never happen, you're toast. It's just not going to play. And that's what we got.
Yeah. I also thought the characters just were not well written. And then they basically, the plot was like, this character is solely committed. And then it's like, no, I'm not interested in moving on.
Yeah.
And like, just the motivations and all these decisions these characters made, it was just like, who approved this? Who's the producer that said this is a bad idea? So I don't know.
Yeah.
It just did not deliver for me.
I hear
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, and I had one honorable mention. Did you have an honorable mention, Charlie?
I did not. Go for it.
Mine was Dead Boy Detectives. This is based on Neil Gaiman comic series. I watched a couple of it and really enjoyed it, and I'm gonna watch the rest of it. But it was canceled, and very sad thing. But it was kind of doing something very fun and enjoyable.
Yeah.
That I just wish we get more of shows like this. But being on Netflix is often a curse.
It is, yeah. Seems easy, and ends up being the double-edged sword. Well, that's it for 2024. We're headlong into 2025. Got a lot of great content coming up. Got a lot of bad movies coming up. One of which I've already seen, so I kind of popped my cherry for 2025. But yeah, that's the show. Folks, as always, thank you for joining us. Todd, where do people find you out there?
They can find me on Blue Skies at Todd Oxtra at Secret Friends Unite, also on the Threads, but that's probably not going to happen as much now that the Zuck has said we're getting rid of fact checkers. So Threads is also under the Facebook, so it might be going away. But until I do, I'm there at T Oxtra at Secret Friends Unite with dots.
Yeah, I will keep plugging along on my three main socials. I don't count Facebook anymore, but that would be Threads, Instagram, and Blue Sky. I am at the C3, TheCeeThree. But first and foremost, and something that hopefully will not get affected, is our Secret Friends Unite Discord. That is where we're having all of the fun chats, talking about all of the stuff that you see here and very much more. So pop on over there and join us there, because we'd absolutely love to have you. And with that, friends, I'm going to tell you one more time, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
And the winner is you.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.